Do you want to learn how to make delicious macarons? Try following along with this tutorial. Let's get started. If you're using a tray with sides, you're going to want to flip it over so that you get good air circulation. I like to use silicone baking mats so that I can get perfect circle shapes out of my macarons. If you don't have silicone baking mats, you can also use parchment paper. I'm wiping down my baking mats with white vinegar. I do this to make sure that they're clean and that there's no oil residue on them that could cause my meringue to deflate. I'm also going to wipe down my whisk, my mixing bowl, and my spatula. I use a Wilton No. 12 piping tip to pipe out my macarons. Next, I'm going to put on my whisk wiper. This just helps me get all the meringue off my whisk. A kitchen scale is an absolute must for making macarons. Our measurements need to be really precise in order to get good results. We're going to start by cracking our egg whites into a bowl. I calculate my recipe each time I make it based on the weight of my egg whites. It's really difficult to get an exact measurement of egg whites, so I find it easier to crack 3 or 4 egg whites and then use that weight to calculate the rest of my ingredients. Today, I ended up using 4 egg whites, which weighed 136 grams. This is going to be more than enough for me to get 2 dozen macarons. Next, I'm going to weigh out my granulated sugar. I like to use ultrafine sugar, but regular granulated sugar is fine too. You're going to measure out equal parts granulated sugar to egg whites, in this case 136 grams. I'm going to add 5 grams of dried egg white powder. This is optional, it just helps to get a more full macaron shell. Once I combine those, I'm going to measure out my almond flour. Here's where we have to do a little math. You're going to take the weight of your egg whites and multiply it by 1.2. In this case, I end up with 163 grams. I always put a little extra almond flour in my sieve, lift it up, zero out my scale, and then start to sift. I do this because there are always some pieces of almond flour that won't go through the sieve. Next, we're going to weigh out the powdered sugar. It's going to be the same weight as the almond flour, in this case 163 grams. I know that all the powdered sugar is going to go through my sieve, so I measure out the exact amount. Whisk those 2 ingredients together until they're well combined. Now it's time to start working on our meringue. I'm going to pour the egg whites into the bowl and turn on the mixer at a low speed. I'm going to let it go at a low speed until I see some frothy bubbles start to form. Now it's time to start adding in the sugar. You can either do this 1 spoonful at a time, letting it mix for about 30 seconds between each spoonful, or you can add in about half of your sugar and then let it mix for 2 minutes, then add in the rest of the sugar. When adding in and mixing in the sugars, I keep the mixer on low. Once all of the sugar's been added, I turn the mixer speed up to medium-low or at a number 4 on a KitchenAid. I keep it at this speed for 10 minutes. At the 10-minute mark, this is what your meringue should look like. Now you're going to turn the mixer speed up to medium or number 6 on a KitchenAid for 3 minutes. Now I'm going to add a few drops of lemon yellow Americolor gel paste food coloring. After mixing that in, I'm going to check the consistency of my meringue to make sure that I have reached stiff peaks. I like to transfer my meringue into a bowl with a wide opening before adding my dry ingredients. Add in half of the dry ingredients and gently fold them in. Once that's well incorporated, add in the other half of the dry ingredients and repeat this process. At this point, we aren't trying to deflate our meringue. We're just trying to get the dry ingredients completely incorporated into the meringue. At the end of that process, it should look like this. Now it's time to start deflating our batter. You want to remove just enough air from the batter so that when you pipe your macarons, you get nice smooth circles. I like to press my spatula into the batter 3 or 4 times and then with a swooping motion, fold the batter over so that I make sure I'm deflating the batter evenly. Check the consistency of your batter by lifting up your spatula to see if the batter runs off of it. You can see here that the batter is not ready yet because it just kind of fell off in a big clump. So you're going to keep deflating the batter and keep checking it so that you don't overdo it. The batter should run off of your spatula with a slow but consistent flow like this one. Here's another angle of what that should look like. Pour the batter into your piping bag fitted with the number 12 tip. Now it's time to pipe the macarons. Squeeze the piping bag until you have enough batter for the correct size of macaron. I usually go to the second line. When you're done piping the macaron, release the pressure and then make a gentle swirling motion before lifting your piping bag up. The goal is to make your macarons as close to the same size as possible. Once you've piped out a full tray of macarons, you're going to pick up your tray and gently pat the bottom a few times. This is going to help break up any air bubbles. Use a toothpick or a cookie scribe to break any extra bubbles that you see. Let the macarons rest at room temperature for 15 minutes while you preheat your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Bake the macarons for 18 to 20 minutes. You'll notice that my oven is set to 285 degrees, and that's because my oven runs hot. It can be helpful to use an oven thermometer to check the actual temperature of your oven, as they tend to vary quite a bit. I check if my macarons are baked by trying to wiggle the top of the macaron, and if it doesn't move, then I know it's done. These can go from underbaked to overbaked pretty quickly. Let the macarons cool completely before trying to remove them from the tray. Otherwise, they might stick even if they're done baking. I like to use a Wilton 1A tip to pipe my filling in my macarons. Pipe your filling into the center of each macaron. I'm using pina colada buttercream. You can use all different kinds of fillings for macarons and really any flavor that you want. Sandwich your macarons together and let them mature in the fridge for 24 to 48 hours. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Please let me know if you try this recipe. Thanks.